This video is going to be probably the most important video when it comes to understanding marketing or even just doing marketing as a whole. If you implement these strategies, then you'll be able to solve, any problem when it comes to marketing, and you won't even need an attribution tool. Hello, how's it going, everyone? So this video is going to be probably the most important video when it comes to understanding marketing or even just doing marketing as a whole. There's so much that has changed over the years, and just to kind of give you a rough highlight of what we're going to be talking about, it's essentially, if you can't see, attribution. And so we were spoiled with attribution for the last, I would say honestly, 20 years. It's just been an uptrend of more and more attribution. And then now we're in that kind of recorrection of it all where we're starting to lose more and more attribution. And so as marketers, we have to be prepared for that. And so what this means is if you can grasp this and understand these concepts, both as a business owner and a marketer, that you will have a huge advantage over all the other businesses. And you'll also be able to decide which agency or which, areas to focus on inside of your business. And so if we were to summarize attribution in a nutshell, it's essentially as a user goes through their thought pattern, buying process, whatever it may be, they hit all of these different points that cause them to make a decision to convert or become a lead or, whatever your main action is that you're optimizing for. And so as marketers, we have to try to find out which area has the most impact. So then we make the funnel the most efficient that it can potentially be. And so we'll see here that we have the first touch point, which could be, a meta awareness campaign. And then the last touch point, which could be like a meta remarketing campaign. And so our job is to, like I said earlier, find the most efficient pathway for a user to get from point A, not knowing us, all the way to point B or C or D, whatever you would call it in the funnel. And so if we look down here, we see that as time has passed, all these X's, and I apologize if someone's, watching this and they have OCD, this is not lined up. I took screenshots. So anyways, going into the X's represent loss of attribution. And so the way that we know this is through controlled tests, which I'll cover in a moment here. So the loss of attribution is essentially the, iOS update or the, user itself that they go through and they say, okay, I see the ad on Meta, but then I go to another device like my phone or my computer, and then I go to another and I see another ad on YouTube, let's say. And then I go back to my other device, and then the string kind of gets broken. And then as, my buying pattern increases, meaning that, it could be 90 days or 100 days or 12 days or whatever, the case may be, the algorithms can't track that information because there's not a string of information attached to that user of their previous history. And Google's going to go through this as well in Q3 of 2024, where we're just going to lose third-party cookies. And so the main thing that the app platforms are doing is they're trying to solve this issue by increasing the touch points to the user, and Performance Max is the #1 example of this. And so I'll kind of show you what I mean by this. So as the user goes through the process of hearing about your brand, you'll notice that these little markers are like a remarketing or Performance Max campaign, whatever the case may be. I just have it as a Performance Max campaign, but think of it as remarketing. And so as they go through this process, there's more touch points of remarketing that will get the ability to say, hey, I impacted this. Hey, I impacted this. And if it shows multiple times towards, for example, the end of the conversion window, it's a lot easier for the system to say, hey, I got that conversion. But if you try scaling this, for example, if we were to try to scale the remarketing campaign, we have to make sure that there's enough awareness built for the user to actually convert on the remarketing campaign side of things. And so when it comes to attribution, the way that we solve this is we do controlled tests. So what I mean by that is that if we have a remarketing campaign and we think that that's doing a ton of work and we're want to lean into that. Now I know that this is, I'm making this as black and white as possible, but let's say that we know it's a remarketing campaign. Then we try to scale that up. What we notice is that maybe our top line numbers don't increase, meaning that we're paying more for marketing and we're not getting more new customers. Our media efficiency ratio, meaning our global ROAS, is not getting better. Then we know there's an issue there and we have to try to find out why. And that's what your agency should be doing, your marketer should be doing, or how you should be looking at this. If an agency is not doing this, or if you're not doing this, then be very prepared with the next update that's going to be coming to Google. meaning like the loss of attribution on Google, that we're not really going to be able to hide behind remarketing anymore, which in my opinion is unethical, but also as a business owner, it's going to be really apparent that, okay, this is not making us money. And so one thing that we like to do, like I was saying, was controlled tests to see, okay, we scaled this up. Did we see a top line effect? We didn't. Okay, what else can we scale? And you have to make sure by scaling this that you're not affecting any other part of the funnel, or you're doing your best to not affect any other part of the funnel. So you know that this is the cause and effect of it. Now I know that there's sales that can happen. There's, overall, just you can have certain campaigns that just launch and they're already scheduled. Completely understand that, like you have a billboard, whatever the case may be. The goal though is to look for trends that allow you to then have a more, greater than 50% belief that this either had a positive effect on the scale or a negative effect on the scale. Attribution platforms are never going to tell you the full story, right? So we might be able to like remove, for example, the X here and the X here inside of the attribution with an attribution platform, but we're still going to miss, for example, X is over here, or the actual X that caused the initial action, or we might see it, might not. There's no way to fully know. And so when you master the skill of controlled tests, you then can provide a lot of value to your client, because you can say, no, I'm not going to scale their marketing campaign because we tested that, it didn't work. I'm going to scale the awareness campaign. Now, like I said, I know this is very straightforward on which campaign is which, and that's going to take a lot of skill to kind of figure that out first. But allowing yourself to say, hey, we need to do this, and tell your business or your, actual, agency manager that we need to do this, is a really good way to say, okay, if we scale up the awareness campaign, that drives overall profit to our business because everything else starts to get better. Omnichannel is a nightmare, and so there's so much crossover that is untracked that I find a lot of businesses will just say, yeah, let's scale the Performance Max campaign. Google looks better, and the only reason it looks better is because it's towards the end of the actual action. And so this kind of funny graph here is one of the biggest issues that we see in accounts that we also intake, where we see a lot of agencies that just say, I see good numbers towards the end of the funnel, we need to just scale bottom of funnel. And when you do that, it obviously doesn't impact the business in a positive light. And so then you run into issues of, okay, we're losing money, what do we cut? Well, Meta isn't showing as much of a ROAS, or YouTube isn't showing as much of a ROAS, let's just trim that off. And then you trim that off, and sure, it might look better for like a day or two, because you're reducing your marketing spend. But then as you notice, the audience slowly depletes, and you don't have any more users running to your bottom of funnel, and then you end up killing the business. I see this so often, and this is one of the main reasons too why Solutions 8 is going more into the omni-channel space, because we don't want to essentially have to educate other agencies on, hey, this cause and effect is an issue here. We need to solve that. And so we're going at it from a perspective of, we have the understanding from just impacting Google that all these other platforms impact Google on the bottom of funnel, right? So with that being said, as a marketer, make sure you do controlled tests, and look for the cold traffic. So top of funnel, whatever it is that's feeding the actual funnel itself, not just what looks good inside of the in-app. You might find too that you might need to scale the bottom of funnel a little bit more. So this isn't a perfect example, but you might say, hey, like we have a ton of awareness being built, but we really need to scale that. Like, we need to get longer form messaging into it to really, people know the brand, but they don't really know what we do. And then as you locate all those different areas of efficiency, you can then say, okay, we have 70% towards top of funnel, 20% towards middle of funnel, and then 10% towards bottom of funnel. And that's going to be varied based on business, right? So as an agency, we have correlations that we can find across other businesses, right? So we can say like, hey, like in this niche, we found this campaign tends to do this. Like for example, Performance Max tends to remarket. Do we want to leverage that or not? Where do we want to throw it in? Where do we not? And so we have that kind of insight that helps us. But I think as marketers, it goes beyond that. That's just a likelihood. That's not a law or a SOP, you could say. And so if you use these principles of using controlled tests to then find out where the impact is coming from, you can build a funnel for any company whatsoever. And so with that being said, I know it's a really complex topic, but I just wanted to give you guys a high level of it. This is sort of how I like to look at it, and how a lot of other strategists like to look at it, along with just marketers in general, business owners that are successful. And so if you implement these strategies, then you'll be able to solve, any problem when it comes to marketing, and you won't even need an attribution tool. So anyways, thanks again, guys, and I'll see you later.
So let's get into this, John, which is where do we stand now in terms of attribution generally, and really in reference to what it has to do with Google Ads? So, we kind of went through the iOS 14 era of that being